Welcome, everyone, to our BeautyTech AI Insider Strategic Series. This is session one. We are focused on how to win the beauty shopper on AI-driven discovery marketplace. And over the next 3 sessions, we will be exploring how beauty discovery, engagement, and loyalty are evolving and how you could lead the change. So in front of you, you do see the 3 sessions. If some of you only registered for one, feel free to join the next one. Just give us a holler and register. And of course, after all the sessions, feel free to reach out, tell us how we did, what else would you like to hear, and what other sessions we could perhaps add to. And please do stay till the very end. We will also announce a bit of a surprise as an additional session that we will be adding to our series. But that is coming up later. So with that, I am Irina Mazur. I'm Chief Product and Marketing Officer at Revieve, and I will be guiding today's conversation. We are all talking about AI changing the world and revolutionizing how our behavior, especially in the shopping area, changes. And so we will talk about how shoppers finding and evaluating beauty products and what both brands and retailers can do to adapt to this change and to this change in behavior and win, which I believe is extremely important. So with that, what is happening, right? What is happening on this beauty discovery battleground? So for years, beauty discovery was a bit of a dance between Google search, influencer-fueled inspiration, as well as the retail shelf navigation. That was kind of the rhythm that we all got used to. Brand awareness was flowing through social media, through marketing promotions, through website educations. And shoppers moved to search to explore and find products that they like. They read the reviews, and then, of course, explored the curated category pages that you presented to them as they browse the digital shelf or the physical shelf. But in recent years, and especially so in 2025, that rhythm has been changed, has been replaced. The ways shoppers find, evaluate, and emotionally connect with the beauty product changed radically. Today, the journey often begins with ChatGPT, or with visual carousel on Google, or Gemini-powered summary. It's not with necessarily as a social media, and it's not necessarily with the brand's or retailer's website or category page. So this shift redefines how and where the major discovery happens. And that is extremely critical. And really what one could say is we truly entered a new era where beauty discovery happens outside of that controlled environment. What is true about AI-driven discovery? We all know, I believe we're experiencing that in our own life as we are becoming the shoppers as well. The journey now starts with a prompt, not a search bar. AI platform like ChatGPT or Gemini delivers fast and curated answers. And if your product or if your brand isn't structured to show up in those summary, you're not a part of that journey. That is reality. We've all been there. We're all asking the questions of what is the product that's right for me? Why is this product best? And we're getting this instant answer, parsing all the data that is available out there. So how do we get discovered? How do we get into that prompt, into that summary? To complicate the matters more, it is still mobile first reality. A lot of that discovery actually is happening on mobile. But the truth is that AI platforms prioritize different signals on mobiles. Mobile discovery has its own playbook. And if you are not playing by it, if you are not aware of the differences on how mobile discovery versus desktop discovery is happening, you are not showing up. About 60% of discovery is happening on mobile today. Of course, it varies depending on the demographic, but that is the reality, and we believe that trend will continue. And then, of course, there is a generational shift. This isn't emergent behavior, it's established. And we already know that nearly half of Gen Z and over a third of millennials are using Gen AI weekly, but it's not limited to those generations. I'm sure we're seeing our grandpas, right, and our infants pretty much talking to AI. So they they're not waiting for you, for the brand, for retailer to guide them. They're already being guided by these new AI platforms. So we have an opportunity to take the charge. And with that, let's take a look a bit at the numbers, right? The data behind this shift. So as I mentioned before, 49% of Gen Z and 37% of millennials now use generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini every week on a regular basis for a variety of questions. And obviously, majority of not only to support their daily life decisions, but also shopping. And it's not casual. They're using these platforms to discover, to compare, to increasingly decide what to buy. They're also using it to make other decisions in life. And the way they're shopping is different. It's sufficient to ask what is the best cleanser for oily skin, or what is a clean lawn wear foundation under $40, and voila, you get the summary and you get the explanation and reasoning why. And they're not expecting links, right? The behavior changed. It's not like search. They are getting answers, summaries, recommendations, opinions. At the same time, 75% of beauty discovery now happens outside of brand-controlled environments. So in this particular case, I'm not talking only about AI platforms, but overall elsewhere, right? That does include social media, that includes short-form video feeds, other conversational search tools, agents, what have you. But the reality is it is 75% of beauty discovery outside of brand or retailer controlled environment. That is pretty critical and significant. And one could say that that presents a strategic threat. So what is the risk at play? Today's AI platforms don't show a list of 10 results even. I mean, they could if you ask the questions the right way, but they summarize, they filter, and they narrow down to just a few. And it's often when it comes to shopping, often they narrow down to 3 to 5 products. They're all aimed at making that journey and decision simpler, shorter. That means you either make the cut or you vanish. We all know that shoppers don't have a lot of patience. Some of them follow up with questions. Some of them truly trust that AI journey and take this first summary at what it is and act on it. You vanish not because your product isn't good. You might be vanishing because your data is not structured in a way that AI understands, processes, and values. It's a completely different game of what it means to structure the catalog for signals for AI. If your product feed isn't optimized with context, with benefits, with relevant signals, if it's not done in a way that's needed for desktop versus mobile environment, those platforms will skip you over. But it doesn't stop there. These platforms now aren't just influencing what people buy. They're very fast moving towards controlling where they buy. Even completing the transaction with an AI interface, we've all seen it. It's not just a suggestion where you could buy. We are already seeing those platforms with Gemini, for example, most recently, offering to complete the transaction right there and then. It's no longer a visibility challenge. It is really a commerce displacement risk. Depending on which path and journey each of this platform will take forward, the actions might be different, but the risk is already there. Your product can absolutely be invisible, and brand can be skipped, and transaction can be lost, perhaps not the actual final transaction, but the journey before it and how a shopper arrived to that transaction can be lost unless you optimize for new AI first pass, and it's a completely different game. So what does it mean? So I would say that we need to call it what it is, right? It is truly a competitive arms race today. AI and AI platforms specifically are redefining what shoppers see, what they believe, and what they buy. And the journey goes like this. They first recommend the product based on shopper's query, context, preferences. Let's make a note of that. How you ask a question matters. And we will touch on that in a little bit. It might be a threat, but it's also an opportunity here. But next, they also justify the selection. We've all seen the answers. It very eagerly explains why a particular product is right for you. Is it because it's oil-free or dermatologist tested or matches your tone? Things like that. Whatever it knows or whatever it thinks it knows, it will be able to provide justification. And then they suggest what to buy. And it could be a couple of different links, all right? Whether it's your site, whether it's Amazon, whether it's third-party reseller, but they suggest and they also justify their suggestion. If there is a discount of some kind, if particular retailer, brand, or platform is trusted more, they're able to justify why they're suggesting where to buy. And then increasingly, we're starting to see that they handle the purchase. In many cases, in the end, it's still brand or retailer transaction. However, there are cases where the transaction is with the platform itself. So this is not just automation. It's essentially disintermediation. AI platforms are not just advisors. They're essentially a new, very smart, very efficient, sophisticated storefront. And if you are not in that loop, if you're not optimized for recommendation, trust, emotional pull, your entire role in the journey diminishes and perhaps even disappears. So I know I spoke a lot about the threat, and it at first sounds scary, but in every threat, there is an opportunity. Just need to be educated about it. But let's make no mistake, there is a real threat if no action is taken. But if action is taken, it also is an opportunity. This is truly defining moment for the industry, at least in my opinion, but I believe that opinion is shared by many in the industry. And it is not a binary choice. It is not threat or opportunity. It's also not a binary choice on whether you invest and show up in a discovery in AI platform or invest in your own journey. No, you absolutely need both. The brands that will win or the brands or retailers that will win are those who show up at the top of AI summaries and who also are able to pull the shoppers back into their own experiences where they then can build loyalty and trust. And the key is not only to optimize for Gen AI platforms, but also reinforce the trust, the expertise, the differentiations through branded journeys across every touch point and build your own AI experience. If you're not in a summary, you're not in a game. But if you're only in a summary and not building loyalty, you're leaving long-term value on the table. But the beauty of it, if you are doing both, if you're optimizing for discovery, and if you're building your own AI journey, you're actually also creating the cycle. The AI platforms, value platforms that are able to build trust and authority. So by doing both, you're actually amplifying the effect across the entire ecosystem. So let's kind of frame the stakes a little bit more clearly. I just want to be very clear that it's not just about being visible. It's not just about being found, while it's important, but it's really about creating emotional loyalty. Those sticky, meaningful moments where shoppers think this brand actually gets me, this retailer actually understands me. It's about owning the journey to the transaction, not just being the suggested product. And it is about building trust. You know your products the best. You know your formulation the best. You know your standard. You know how you and why you curated your catalog. Well, the trick is now to make sure that your consumers know that that voice is extremely loud and clear on all the channels that you own, and that this voice is discoverable by AI platforms as well. They do value uniqueness, trust, and authority. So you do need to win across all four fronts. You need to have visibility, you need to have emotional connection, you need to have purchase control and deep trust. And if you miss one, not only do you risk being misplaced or not found and missing from the beginning of the discovery journey, you also risk losing the insights and the data and all that value into the consumer behavioral journey. All that data that you could then leverage to build unique experiences, to actually differentiate and stand out. So how do you go about defining your unique edge? I know it sounds like I'm talking about something very generic. What is that that's specific to beauty? But I want to stop here and actually say that what I'm talking about, everything that I've said to this moment, while absolutely relevant to beauty journey specifically, it's also relevant to probably any other category. That is the new reality for e-commerce, for consumer shopping. But beauty does have a unique way of how you could approach it, specific actions, what it means to put that beauty journey there. So let's talk about this, right? How do you define your unique edge? Can you still influence how shoppers feel about your products? Where in a world of AI that summarizes this in two lines, can you still guide that journey that reflects your tone, your brand values, your position? And those are the questions that you need to ask your organization Otherwise, you lose that emotional connection and you lose more than traffic. You lose that identity. So the strategy should be to leverage AI on all of your channels to create deep emotional connection relevant to the beauty space. So what could be those examples, right? About reach and guided journeys in that case. For example, in case of skincare, it could be about creating very guided journey. We talked about the fact that with AI, you could just ask one question and get the answer. But how many of us asked the question and probably got different answers? There is an art in knowing what to ask. You have an opportunity to create that reach guided journey. You know your products, you know your catalog, you know your shopper demographic, and you know what your products were formulated or curated for. So you need to guide the shopper to be able to ask all the relevant questions. And in doing so, you have an opportunity to both understand the shopper needs, the shopper preferences as it relates to beauty, what concerns they have, but you also have an opportunity to educate them why additional questions, why additional clarifications matter. So having that ability to have curated dialogue and suggest what questions they should be asking is extremely important. You could be creating and providing them AI-driven diagnostics in case of skin, for example, right? You have an opportunity to educate your shopper how to understand what their skin is, how it looks, what the areas for improvements are, perhaps well beyond what they would be able to describe themselves. Some shoppers don't know what is true, and they might be actually summarizing what they need in a wrong way. You have an opportunity to put those AI tools in front of them and guide them. You also have an opportunity to guide them through every step of why. So in that conversation, in that dialogue, you're educating them and you're guiding them and you're learning about them at the same time, right? And every step, you have an opportunity to educate even more on why your product, what's behind that, what is the authority? If you're a brand, what went into that formulation? If you're a retailer, why your catalog matters to this particular audience? You know your brand, you could tell the story about your product in a very different way. So for example, if we're talking about skincare specifically, I know if you ask everyday consumers, they will all talk about wrinkles of different kind, but I would argue that many shoppers don't even know what there is different kinds of wrinkles and there's probably different treatments. But you have ability to talk to them in your own voice. We've seen brands that are successful that are presenting more like a beauty triangle or a balance or skin balance, right? And they're essentially redefining or grouping their metrics to tell their own stories that ultimately lines up with their formulation. That is something that only you can tell, only you know, but it needs to be visible. And then, of course, don't forget the post-discovery journey. All of the things that we all talked about before for ages still matters. Post-discovery loyalty matters. But in a world of AI, I would say that should get easier. You should be tapping into all this data that you've accumulated from your shopper journey, from your shopper behavior. And if you have the guided journey where you ask the questions or did the analysis or offered them additional try-ons and so on, you probably are sitting on a mountains of extremely valuable data. With the power of AI, you could turn that data into instant action to further amplify that journey, to build that relationship beyond the purchase, to be connected to them when they're not thinking about shopping, whether it's by tracking progress, offering tips, connecting the beauty to perhaps health and wellness, emotional connection to the mood. You have an opportunity to create that reach with your own AI journey. So I recently was asked in a conversation with someone, or rather somebody commented saying, well, this is a new hype. This is just like Amazon Battle. And my initial reaction was to say, oh yeah, it kind of is, except it's smarter, faster, and ruthless. But taking a moment and step back, I would actually say this is not an Amazon battle, precisely for those reasons. It's by far smarter, faster, and it's vicious. It's not just ruthless. It is absolutely vicious. Why? Why is this a different kind of war? Because it's smarter, because AI doesn't just sell. It has ability to interpret intent. Extremely powerful, extremely unique, something that we should be aware. It has ability to interpret intent. It is faster because it operates in real time across essentially billions of queries, billions of data. And it's ruthless because it has ability to make conclusion and summarize you out of the equation. So I would say that winning means mastering both worlds. You need to make sure that you understand what it takes to show up in these Gen AI discovery platforms. What are the differences and how those platforms operate? What matters to Gemini is different than what matters to ChatGPT. How they will be concluding transactions will be different. But at the same time, you have to harness and master AI to create differentiated experience of your own. Only that creates additional signals and allows you to stand out. So this is your only way to retain control over shopper relationship, which we all know is extremely important and really is a recipe for success. So with that, I would say again, I think that is the theme. The fear, should there be fear? I would say fear should only be there if there is no action. But if there is action, you could start today. It should be opportunity. The only thing I would say, it's not something that's coming. This is something that is already here. So you need to start by optimizing your AI discovery, figuring out what structured data means. And the structured data in the world of this AI discovery platform is very different than structured data signals for traditional SEO. What emotion tag and attribution is, what contextual product metadata is. Really take a look at your content, your product catalog, your communication on all of your channels through that lens and identify what's the next steps. And initially I said, and then do this. Well, it's not and then. At the same time, you have to build your own AI-powered experiences, be it diagnostic journey, virtual advisor, beauty agents, guided selling, with all the bells and whistles in it. You have to start now. And then you drive the repeat engagement through your loyalty strategies and do use all data. Don't just focus on the fact that you got the email address or the contact information. Whatever you discover in that guided journey about their preferences, characteristics, what they like, you have a power of AI to turn it into massive action and massive differentiator. And that is your data. So I would say we don't fight AI. we leverage it, but we have to be very much aware how these other platforms are using it and how they operate, so that we could bring back the shoppers, we could still maintain and win that journey and the data that comes with it, which is crucial. We lose the journey, we lose the discovery, we lose the data. So somebody was asking me, like, so what are the KPIs? And I will use the term KPIs somewhat loosely right now. It's changing what we measure. Visibility is the start. And basically the question behind it is, are you showing up in AI platforms? I challenge you, go on all these platforms and ask a question. That if you're a skincare brand, ask a question, what would those platforms recommend? Which products would they recommend for a particular shopper? See if your brand shows up. Ask those platforms why they suggested one brand or the other. That is an opportunity for you to better understand what is visible to AI, what it values, and then also inform your strategies. Authority. Authority is the new metrics. Do these platforms recognize you as an expert and not just a listing? This is probably fundamentally the main difference. This new platforms, new discovery platforms are looking for authority. Authority and trust contribute to about 40% of the weight when they're figuring out which products will show up. This is new. You need to understand what they value as authority. Is it reviews? If so, from who? Is it a voice from an expert? If your product was formulated and there is an expert behind it, it needs to be visible. It's not enough for you to just mention or talk about that in PR. It needs to also show up in your structured data so that AI could read it, understand it, and treat it as a voice of authority. Absolutely critical across the board. Probably if you were to ask me to highlight one metric that is new in this, authority. Authority behind every message, every piece of your content. Authority behind every single product listing that you have. And then, of course, trust. Right? Trust is important. Trust is other consumers building deeper belief in your brand. Are they landing on your journey? Are they choosing to then shop on your product or on your channels? And then, of course, loyalty. Are they coming back? So this is not new, right? But it does change in combination. These are the new metrics. So visibility, authority, trust, and loyalty. Without the first two, chances are I'm not going to get to the next. So with that, I think the question is, well, what do I do, right? What happening to my, and perhaps I'm simplifying, but some are asking, what is happening on my product detail page? Isn't that enough? Well, it answers with a basic fact. And I would also say your product detail page being detailed enough is not necessarily a signal to these platforms to be found. Is your product detail page presenting the data that is also structured in the right way for those platforms to read it? That is the question. So it's not so much what does your consumer see, which is absolutely important, but what does the AI see behind it? Does AI understand how to read it as well? And what you might need to change. But to compete today, you also need this dynamic journey, right? So you need the try-ons if we're talking about um, the beauty and makeup. You need to give consumer ability to see what the product looks like, what the product feels like. You probably need to educate them on what products are best for them. And the question, what is best for me, is becoming more and more difficult to answer. because the shoppers want you to understand their intent as well. The shoppers want you to be able to read the clues and breadcrumbs that they leave behind. So, and the questions that the shopper asks today is different. For example, I was talking to someone in a makeup space. It used to be, it's like, what color is right for me? Does it suit my features? Well, now the questions are changing as well. Does it suit my mood? Does it suit the party or the event that I go to? Does it suit the environment that I'm into? So that connection from intent to the actual product, you need to build a journey that understands that and gives that emotional storytelling. Loyalty is going to be harder to earn, but if you get in that game, it will help you in the rest of the ecosystem. So catalog structure gets you seen. That's important thing to remember. But catalog structure today that gets you seen on those platforms is different than catalog structure yesterday that got you seen on the traditional SEO. So make no mistake there. Take a look, be very clear what you need to change. But then it's your own AI-powered journey that is unique, that is differentiated, that is with voice of authority, that gets you chosen and keeps them coming back. So here's a bit of additional examples. And I think if you take nothing away from this webinar by one thing, I would say authority is the new competitive edge. So for brands, it starts from, for example, in skincare, it starts with personalized diagnostics in your own way, with being able to analyze the skin, the face, present the result, understand the goal, educate the consumer. It could also be about immersive storytelling, create the narrative that only your brand knows, create that emotional connection. It shouldn't be just about product claims. It should be about something more, about something different. For retailers, again, I know it's about your curated assortment, but you selected that assortment for very specific demographic, for different needs. Tell your story. Intelligently guide them, present that value. Also, utilize all those tools that you have in your arsenals. If it's a skincare, diagnostic, guided recommendation, education, lean in on partnerships with your brands to do that as well. They know it best. For the makeup, educate consumer on a variety of different makeup techniques, on their face, on the application. Again, lean in on your brands, but build your own experiences that showcases the richness of your catalog and your connection to your shopper. You know whether they're in a city or if they're in a rural areas, you know their demographic, in which markets you operate. It's not the same story everywhere, and only you know your shopper. So all of those signals, when you're doing that on your platform, also builds trust. And that trust is essentially the new shelf. So what do you need to build in a summary? And quite honestly, I probably would have presented the same slide even if I was talking to any different industry other than beauty. It is AI-ready product catalog that is really providing all these additional signals to the AI platforms. It is intelligent journey with be it advisors, agents, diagnostics, guided flows. You all see here in this word, it's all the same. It's essentially guided journey leveraging AI. And then you do still need omni-channel orchestration to make sure that your journey connects. Don't forget about mobile, but when you're touching mobile, don't forget that AI-ready product catalog for mobile also has its own nuances and its own differences. And then you do need your data-driven brand voice. Don't forget that most of you who've been in business for a while has the data about your shoppers. Use that data in full. Use AI to master that data, to understand that data quicker, to turn it into immediate actions in how you communicate and reach your consumer. And in return, you'll get more data. If the shoppers are doing the discovery with you, that is your chance to educate them and get educated about them. You need that. But don't just sit on that. The time to wait to process the data and turn it into action, that time has gone. That time is now. Maybe you can't take action on a small sliver of data. Maybe you can only do that on some sets. Whatever you can, the key is act. Don't wait for the fully blown strategy. Somebody who is not acting on those things now will be displaced because, like I said, AI is smart and vicious and fast, right? So it's not, don't treat it as a campaign, don't treat it as a project. This is your new beauty strategy to reach your shoppers and retain your shoppers. So people were asking me, like, what are the leaders doing now? Well, I would say leaders have been acting. AI is not new. We all knew that AI is coming. What is new, it now is much more accessible, right? And it's at the fingertips of our shoppers. That is what drastically new. But the leaders were actually focusing on their own differentiating journey for quite some time. The leaders already put in the discovery and guided discovery journeys with skin questions and diagnostics and virtual try-on tools. And now what they're doing, now they're upping the game on that journey. They're layering in additional smarts with the conversational AI, contextual AI, additional educational journey, post-purchase journeys, follow-up. So the leaders have been there and they're upping the game and doing more and more. They now have ability to add more to that journey and they could do it very quickly. The leaders in makeup might be creating shop by looks or trying or connecting the makeup to mood, as I was mentioning before. They're analyzing your face and recommending the most comprehensive makeup. They will be doing more with AI, but they've already built some foundation. However, don't be discouraged. You can still put in your journey. You could start and get started very quickly with some of those journeys. I think the worst thing you could do is do nothing. And do remember that just structuring the catalog, just doing one piece, a tiny piece here and there will not be enough. AI has redefined the table stakes. So all of those things need to be there. And it is working. Our stats show that with the proper journey on the site, we're seeing that the site time on the site increases by 28%. Conversion increases by at least 21%. We're seeing less returns by 18%. Those aren't small tweaks. This is the transformations that moves the needle. And the longer that journey is on the brand or retailer site or channel, the more layers there are to the journey, the more sophisticated it becomes, the more trust signals the platform then sends to these other AI platforms that also support their product catalog. So it doesn't only benefit what's happening on the site, it doesn't only benefit that discovery, but it also helps you being found elsewhere. It really is the cycle of life, so to speak, of the entire ecosystem. And it is happening, it has been happening now, and we have perhaps in the next sessions, we'll dive deeper into more specific examples of that. So key takeaways as we're coming to the end of the webinar. AI is not replacing beauty commerce. It's basically just rewriting the rules of the game. In this new ecosystem, authority earns attention, loyalty earns return, and strategic AI and understanding of AI earns both. And so the winners will be the ones that have that, build that unified beauty AI strategy that connects every point, that builds trust, and that resonates. So it's not the win by ranking first. You win by the first place, but by trust, authority, and wanting shoppers to come back. And that will be recognized by AI platforms as well. So with that, I will do a little bit of a non-traditional Q&A, given that we have a pretty wide audience. We will actually ask you all, if you have any questions or follow-ups, we will reach out to you and provide you a mechanism to suggest those, or do reach out. We will collect that and we will perhaps arrange another round table. But I want to leave with a different form of Q&A. I want to give you questions to ask of your organization. So if you were to ask the most, I would say, 3 most strategic questions, so provoking questions, I would ask yourself, where in your current shopper journey do you feel you're losing the most visibility or influence? Is it discovery? Is it engagement? Or is it conversion? You need to know that answer. Then you will know which type of journey to build first, second, third, and where to create these incremental experiences. Second, how confident are you that your product catalog and content is optimized for Gen AI platforms? Is it optimized for ChatGPT, for Gemini, for Google SGE, for all of them, for some, to which degree? And I'm not only talking about your product catalog, which of course for you is the most important, but remember I talked about authority. That is also an additional signal to all this discovery platform. All of your other content, be it marketing content, communication content, any sort of brand positioning, all of that content needs to be optimized for those platforms as well. So how confident are you that it is? And do you know what you need to do for each of those platforms? And then last question, if you had to define your brand's authority voice, what would it say? And how well is that voice currently showing up in across AI and your other channels? Does it match what you actually wanted to say, or does AI think something different? So with that, I want to thank you all. I hope you join us for the next sessions. If you want to take a look at some of our experiences of what others are doing in the beauty industry, please feel free to scan the QR code. You'll get a page with a variety of different examples on how our partners educate and learn from their shoppers, how they inspire them, and how they empower them. But until then, we're looking forward to your questions, and hopefully we get them, because I would love to have a number of discussions, a bit more of a conversational webinar and a series of roundtables. But I also promised a surprise. Please stay tuned. Later this week, we actually will announce one more webinar with one of the partners, and we will add that to our series. So stay tuned for the announcement. It will be very interesting. Some very exciting data that we will be sharing about what's happening in the marketplace and with all the shoppers. And I also hope to see you on our next webinar series. I believe the next one is in just 2 weeks. So thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And until we speak again.